variety than I think any other conference I've ever been to, between little children waving their arms and playing marimba to a really wonderful scientific talk about subjects that I know very little. So this is really great. And now this next segment is somewhat even more, adds another element of diversity, because we have three wonderfully involved, engaged musicians and sound conscious, sound healers, sound talkers, sound everything people, but who all of whom have in common a love and devotion to the late Don Campbell, who is one of the co-honorees of this symposium. As I mentioned before, we have several books and recordings of Don in the back, which are available for purchase at a discounted price. And Helena, would you just stand up? This is a wonderful person who is one of Don's very closest friends and business associates over many years. And if you have any questions about the books or what is available, Helena can answer your questions. The three people on the panel here, and I'm sure we could have produced 25 more to join them, but Don Campbell was a longtime resident of Boulder. This is his hometown. And so, although he has a national reputation, had a national reputation primarily as the author of the Mozart Effect, he also was worldwide in his fame for his many trips and teachings in France and in Japan and many other countries on many issues related to sound and hearing and involvement and energetic participation in music. Don was a vital force on my volunteer advisory board. He would have us moving constantly and talking about the best ways to energize people. So this is kind of a reminiscence panel, but also a chance for these three wonderful presenters to tell a little bit about what they do and also their relationship to Don and things that perhaps they use in their teaching and in their own approaches and ideas. So you can read a little bit of their biographies in detail in your program book, and if you don't have a program book, please feel free to take one at the back. But with that very short introduction, we'll go to KUCSAN here. Thanks.
So let's see. That was sort of a hard act to follow, but we're going to give it a try. Thank you so much. I don't really know exactly what I'll say, but how many of you knew Don? Okay, so quite a few of you. Okay, great. That's really great. So it's really my intention to honor him. I was going to start out by doing sort of an elegy, but I am, can you hear me? Okay. I'm not a poet and I'm not very plaintive, but really I would rather celebrate him because his entire life and work was a celebration of music and sound and energy. So that's what I want to do, just tell you a little bit about my association with him, and because he's really important and really was so wonderful, and I just will always miss him. Don was a mystic. He was a magician, and his approach to music was magical, and I don't mean woo-woo magical, I just mean he thought it was magic, and he believed that it really was, and so of course I do now too, but he totally believed wholeheartedly in music as powerful and as totally spiritual. And I saw him as this missionary, kind of a troubadour that went around and kind of just talked about sound and healing to the whole planet, to whoever would listen, and he did it very well. He was a charismatic presenter. He was a renegade. He was a total comedian. And he was a total inspiration to me and many other people. So I have a whole collection of Don Campbellisms, and I'd like to share a few of them with you today, a few stories. Collected them over the past 2 decades, and give you a glimpse of him for those of you that don't know him. And I was sitting here during the first presentations thinking, what would Don say? And I think it would be something like, wasn't that wonderful? Wasn't that amazing? And I want to do it. And he was so amazingly positive and So my first contact with him was about 20 years ago-ish, and with this book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, called Introduction to the Musical Brain. So I am here in the MME program, and am a graduate student and I know everything about the field and I'm really here just to get a credential, right? So that's actually sort of true. But then I came across this book and it totally shook my world, and I thought, he is talking about music in the brain. He's talking about brain waves. He's talking about the mind-body connection, and I really had never considered it before. Like our previous presenter who never improvised, I didn't either. I played the notes, I got skill on my instrument. I didn't really think very much beyond the mechanics of music, and so here's Don. Wow. Okay, so I read this book, and then another one came along. That green one, by the way, is called Introduction to the Musical Brain. And it was published in 1983. So he's talking about music in the brain 30 years ago when these topics weren't really talked about in public. So then this book came along, and I noticed a few of them back there on the table, Rhythms of Learning. So he's expanding on the concepts in, I feel really weird behind this podium, but I'm gonna stand here so you can hear me. He's expanding on these topics. He's talking about the sonic environment. He's talking about music as a nutrient. He's talking about soundscapes, and my mind is further blown. So, wow. And then I found out that he was doing a workshop in Denver. So of course I sign up and I go to the workshop, and there he is being done. And after it was over, I basically attacked him and said, I need to know more about this, please. So he invites me to his house for tea, and we go off on this romp of many years of esoteric conversation, and he shared everything that he was thinking with me, which was a lot, and I'm very grateful for that. Kind of lost now, so. So I attacked him at the workshop. We talked a bit. He was talking about things like 50% of people are going to lose their hearing by the time they're 80 if we continue with the big amplified music. He was talking about the need that we have, a sensory need that we have for being in music and sound, that it feeds us, it's a nutrient. He was talking about, let's see, I think he called it the physiology of listening. So he talked about, we have a whole entire physiology that occurs when we listen, and it's different than hearing. So listening is very distinct from hearing, because from the age of 4.5 months in utero, we can basically hear. But we need to learn how to listen. And there's a whole thing that happens physiologically when we do actually listen and receive sound. So he believed that the sensory experience was vital, really, to us neurologically and physically. So, and I actually believe that too, from many years of playing in the orchestra, coming home from rehearsal, feeling charged. You know, I think probably you have that experience as well if you play music. So he actually turned out to be right, because currently 40% of people over the age of 65 have hearing loss. 1 in 5 people over the age of 12 right now currently experience some kind of hearing loss, that they cannot hear anything below 25 decibels. And this is because of the stuff that he was warning us about 30 years ago. You know, the pre-iPods he was talking about, be careful of the proximity to amplified sound and that kind of thing. So there I am. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. A little riffing here. So we started going to concerts together, and going to a concert with him was very interesting because he was not a critic. He was always very positive about the musicians and the setting. He always had something to say. He would always tell a story. So we'd leave a concert and it would sound something like this. I love Mahler so much. I love the texture. I love this piece. I love the Second Symphony. It wasn't too hot and Mackie, and wasn't that soprano enormous? So he had this way of tossing these things out, and I really never knew how to respond to him. So he was always 10 steps ahead of me, and he was saying, "Didn't you really love that section when it went from E flat major to F sharp minor, and then there was that little Mixolydian section?" And I'm thinking, what? wow, we were listening to the same piece. And, his quality, his ability to listen and hear and process and do all that stuff was really quite amazing. He was quite brilliant, as you know. He talked about this, and he went to concerts wherever he went in the world, and he told me about Bayreuth and how beautiful and glorious and amazing it was, but the goddamn seating was so uncomfortable. And he told me a story about being in Berlin. I think it was Berlin, I'm not positive, but there was a performance of Salome, and so that the actual temperature of the theater went up 7 to 10 degrees during the Dance of the Seven Veils, because it was, And he had a thermometer, and he was recording this. And isn't that interesting? That was interesting. So Don took me really pretty far afield of what I was studying, and I tried to get him on my doctoral committee, but he was banned. So that's true. So I really, in this moment, I'm totally enjoying the irony of being here at CU at a symposium named for him. So,
Thank you, Don.
yes, thank you, Don. So in the mid-90s, my dear friend Peggy Bruns and I co-founded what used to be the Rocky Mountain Center for Musical Arts. I don't know if you're here, Peggy, but if you are, hi. Oh, hi. So Don was totally supportive. I was on this total academic trajectory. I was going to be a professor, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was I began to think that it wasn't crazy to start a music school from scratch with nothing. But he said, oh yeah, you can do this, and people can learn from all ages. People can learn from childhood, infancy, through adulthood, through seniorism, and all that kind of stuff. So do it, do it, do it. And he was there, and he was supportive, and he gave us a set of Orff instruments, and when the Mozart Effect came out, he came and gave a lecture, and turned around and donated the proceeds to us. So he was there all the time, being very supportive with faculty, saying, community needs this, people need music, people need live music, here you go. So, forever grateful for that. My last really long conversation with him was one day when he called me up and said, I'm thinking about where to bequeath my piano. And I don't want to give it to the school anymore because of a drama with some nonprofit bad merger thing. So, no, the school's not going to get it. So, I'm thinking, okay, this is out of the blue. He was sort of out of the blue guy. And he said, oh, by the way, I have this cancer thing, and I think it's going to be over pretty quickly. So, it was one of those moments in the kitchen where you look at the phone and go, really? Oh my God, but he went on and, yep, I got this thing, and I'm going to be leaving. And within 4 months, he was gone. But during that whole time of his, what do you call that? I don't know. Illness.
Ready.
Yeah. He
Transition.
illness, and there was never not music. So it was in the background. It was people coming to visit him and singing and playing, and yeah. So it was a total inspiration to me the way he did transition. So I want to leave you with his words. This is the preface to the Mozart Effect, which he called the overture. I might have to cry, but I'm just saying. What is this magical medium that moves, enchants, energizes, and heals us? In an instant, music can uplift our soul, awakens within us the spirit of prayer, compassion, and love, clears our minds, and has been known to make us smarter. Music can dance and sing our blues away. It conjures up memories of lost lovers or deceased friends. It lets the child in us play, the monk in us pray, and the cowgirl in us line dance. I've never line danced, but I'm not happy. Music is a holy place, a cathedral so majestic that we can sense the magnificence of the universe, and also a hovel so simple and private that none of us can plumb its deepest secrets. Yet it is more than all these things. It is the sounds of the earth, the sky, of tides and storms. It's the echo of a train in the distance, the pounding reverberations of a carpenter at work, from the first cry of life to the last sigh of death, from the beating of our hearts to the soaring of our imaginations. We are enveloped by sound, and vibration every moment of our lives. It is the primal breath of creation itself, the speech of angels and atoms, the stuff of which life and dreams, souls and stars are ultimately fashioned. So happy to answer any questions as we continue down the panel. Thanks.